Canada is now taking refugees from Minnesota. Now here's the Winnipeg Free Press. They're a little bit less weird about it. They're showing the name and face of the refugee. Do you see the picture of him there? He's going to lose fingers, it looks like, because of frostbite. Hey, who do you think's going to be paying for that medical care? And paying for welfare for him for the rest of his life because he can't work with his fingers now. You betcha. Friendly Manitoba. Now this refugee's name is Saidu Mohammed. I know, like me, you're totally shocked. And here he is with a bunch of other refugees who have all come in the same way. They were thrilled to meet their new buddy, the latest arrival. Now, Mohammed says he's from Ghana, which is in Africa. And it's actually one of the few countries in Africa that is free. Here is the Freedom House rating. That's a think tank called Freedom House. They measure civil liberties around the world. One of the reasons that Ghana is free is that it's a largely Christian country, about 3/4 Christian, but Mohammed is Muslim, but there is no persecution of Muslims in Ghana. There is no anti-black racism in Ghana. It's an all-black country, 98%. But he's a refugee. You'll notice that both the CBC and the Winnipeg Free Press put that word in their headlines, but not in quotes, not an alleged refugee or a purported refugee. They just call him a refugee. But of course he's not coming as a refugee from Ghana. You can't walk to Manitoba in a snowstorm and lose your fingers from Ghana. Again, let's go to the maps. That's Ghana. You can't get to Manitoba from Ghana by foot. Now, I read this whole story in the Winnipeg Free Press, surely one of the worst newspapers in Canada, and that's saying something. But at least I learned from them more than I learned from the CBC. But get this, right at the bottom of the story, buried right at the bottom of the Winnipeg Free Press. For Mohammed, who left his home in 2015 and spent 6 months on planes, boats, and buses to get to the U.S. before hoofing it into Canada, the perilous journey was worth life and limb. I don't regret it, the 32-year-old said. That's life, trying to survive. 6 months in transit, eh? And starting in 2015, it's 2017 now, so really 2 years here. Transit, so planes and boats and buses, they say. Sounds like an awful lot of countries he's been through to get from Ghana to Manitoba. Maybe he went through the rest of Africa, or maybe he went up to Europe. We know he went to America. 6 months of traveling, including, he says, or in addition to, he says, 8 months in the United States, where his visa was set to expire, and he was going to be kicked out because he's not a real refugee. There's so many things here. First, if you're in the United States, you're not at risk for life and limb, unless you're stupid enough to walk for miles in a snowstorm and lose your fingers to frostbite. But you're not at risk for life and limb in the hands of some persecutor. You're in America now. You are no longer a refugee, if you ever were in the first place. He kept trading up, though, didn't he? From Ghana to who knows where, maybe to Europe, maybe to London, England, and then to the U.S. But he kept trading up, not because those other countries were persecuting him, but because he knew that the most free stuff, the country that's the most gullible, that has the stupidest immigration laws in the world, is Justin Trudeau's Canada. And if you doubt me, here's another story published with a straight face by the CBC of a Somali refugee who swam to Canada. Seriously, again, like Ghana. Hey guys, you can't swim from Somalia to Canada. He swam from North Dakota to Canada after the U.S. government said to him, yeah, no, you're not a refugee. As in, we know for a fact he's not a refugee. It was put to the test, and he failed to convince even Obama's liberal immigration officers. So he swam to freedom from the U.S., because they're not free down there, apparently, and we were stupid enough to take him. My favorite part, though, is that the CBC shows this guy's route. Country after country after country after country after country. None of them thought he was legit. Hey, no problem. He kept trading up to find a bigger sucker. And he did. He found us. Look at that there. He won a bid to stay here. Hey, now back to Mohammed from Ghana. He had interacted with U.S. immigration. He had made applications for a refugee status there, and he was refused there. Of course he was. But now in Canada, he says he's gay. And that's why he's a refugee, and that's why he's fleeing Ghana. Get it? He's gay. Really? All right, let's take his word for that. Sure seem to be a lot of gay Ghanaians, almost as if word got out that Ghanaians are told, just say you're gay and you'll get in. No, that's impossible. Just as impossible as word getting out to get yourself driven across the border, come right up to the border and walk across, and there will be a big group of other guys who did the same thing and who are now living free and happy and all well fared up. Nah, couldn't happen. He's surely telling the truth. One more line from the Free Press story. Until recently, it has been Somalis traveling the now well-worn route in which they're driven from Minneapolis, Minnesota, to a point just south of the town of Emerson. Again, go to the map. Somalia, 99% Muslim. There is no persecution of Muslims or blacks in Somalia. It is Muslim and black. These folks are economic migrants, and when it comes to Somalis, I think it would be accurate to call them settlers, not even refugees, because they're transplanting their hometown customs into new ethnic enclave settlements here. Remember this clip I showed you the other day from Ami Horowitz? He went to Minnesota's Somali community.
Do you feel more comfortable living under American law, or do you feel more comfortable living under Sharia law?
Sharia law.
I'm a Muslim. I prefer Sharia law.
Sharia law, yes.
You prefer Sharia law over American law?
Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah.
And do you find most of your friends feel the same way?
Yeah, of course. If you're Muslim, yeah.
Yeah, that's the soft jihad of Sharia law. Occasionally, there's the hard jihad from Somali refugees too, like the Somali refugee who went berserk and went on a stabbing spree last month at Ohio State University. Look, it's not just common sense that says these folks aren't refugees if they're coming from Minnesota. It's the law, actually. Even if this latest Mohammed character was genuinely fleeing some real threat of violence in Ghana. Well, that threat of violence stopped the minute he went to a second or third or fourth or fifth country. There are no refugees from Minnesota in the United States. This is a con man, really. The U.S. was going to deport him because of that. Not Barack Obama, of course. He loves illegal immigrants. Sounds like this guy's been in the U.S. for 8 months. But this Mohammed knows that, Barack Obama knows that refugees vote for Democrats, and he, frankly, even encouraged them to do that.
When you vote, you are a citizen yourself, and there is not a situation where the voting rolls somehow are transferred over and people start investigating, etc. The sanctity of the vote is strictly confidential in terms of who you voted for. If you have a family member who maybe is undocumented, then you have an even greater reason to vote.
Yeah, with Barack Obama as president, there was no reason for Mohammed to leave Minnesota. He was hanging out there for 8 months. But the reason he came up to Canada from Minnesota is not because he thinks the weather is better up here. It's because he knows that Donald Trump is coming to be president. And so this Mohammed character and a lot of other fake refugees, they have to go home now.
You'll rescind the Dream Act executive order.
You're going to have to.
DACA.
We have to make a whole new set of standards. And when people come in, they have to come in.
So you're going to split up families.
Chuck,
you're going to deport children.
Chuck, no. We're going to keep the families together. We have to keep the families together.
But you're going to keep them together out?
But they have to go.
What if they have no place to go?
We will work with them. They have to go. Chuck, we either have a country or we don't have a country.
Yeah, they have to go now. So you've got millions of illegal immigrants in the United States, and you heard the president-elect. They have to go. The question we need to ask ourselves as Canadians is, are we going to let them go up here We know what Justin Trudeau thinks. Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.